Learned Commissioners, while we're just waiting for the witness to take the stand, may I mention as a courtesy that the deceased former Minister of Defence's widow and daughter and son-in-law have come to make an appearance at the Commission, and they have been seated in a front row because Mrs. Modise would value the opportunity to put a few questions to the witness. Regrettably, she is not represented, as this comes as somewhat of a surprise, and we don't have the relevant mandates in place, but she is going to do the necessary without legal representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the witness take the stand?
Mr. Chair, if I can assist, I went outside. They are not there. I understand they may have gone downstairs to a coffee shop. I don't know whether you want to take a short adjournment. Somebody did go down in order to try and locate them.
Thank you. I'll wait, Sally. I think in that case, rather than us waiting for them, sit here and wait for them. Maybe let's adjourn for another 5-10 minutes. As soon as they come, then we'll reconvene. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Can the witness confirm that he's still under oath?
I do, Chair.
Thank you. Who is going to start with the cross-examination?
Mr. Chair, we had discussions, and it appears that the consensus is that I will start if you are satisfied with the arrangement.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Dr. Woods, you testified yesterday that in your submissions and in your evidence, you attempted to build a picture or a case indicating that widespread or that corruption in fact took place relating to the arms procurement deal. Did I understand you correct?
Mostly correct, through you, Chair. I attempted to build a picture to show the probability of corruption, but nowhere do I actually claim that there was corruption.
I'm sorry, Dr. Woods, I didn't quite understand the last portion of your answer.
Chair, the picture I attempted to build through the provision of evidence and through three fundamental arguments was a picture which suggests that there was a strong probability of corruption as opposed to there being corruption. I was very careful not at any point to imply that my picture indicates that there was corruption.
That's very interesting, Dr. Woods. So, as you sit there, it's not your evidence that there was indeed corruption relating to the arms procurement transaction. All you say is that, in your view, there's a probability of corruption.
That is correct, Chair, I think, and I stressed this in my introduction yesterday. I stressed it in the conclusion, and I referred to the building of a case to show that there was probability. I never went beyond that.
You then further testified that you provided the Commission with a compelling picture, you mentioned, and further you stated that you handed pretty hard evidence to the Commission in this regard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is, of course, in your view.
Of course, yes.
Well, I think let us then investigate the basis of the view that you express. The first issue is, of course, I understand it to be common cause that you never claimed that you have personal knowledge of any of the facts that you rely on.
That is correct. I've never claimed publicly to have any evidence, and I've never made allegations in public that there is corruption.
Mr. Murani yesterday referred to it as direct evidence. I prefer to refer to it as personal knowledge. But you agree with me, you have no personal knowledge relating to any of the facts that you have been dealing with in your submission and or in your evidence.
No, I do have personal knowledge of a number of the issues I referred to yesterday, but none of them were, there were issues regarding circumstances that, in my building the picture, they helped to accumulate together with the secondary sources I referred to suggest this probability.
Well, relating to the allegations, factual allegations of secret payments of certain amounts being paid to people, allegations of that nature, the 30 million that you refer to going to President Mbeki, those type of facts referring to specific payments and or advantages that went to any person you have no personal knowledge of?
No.
We can summarize your evidence to say that all that you actually did in that regard was to present the Commission with certain newspaper articles and or emails suggesting unlawful conduct in that regard.
I think that's an unfair way of putting it. Again, it appears that one tries to dismiss us on the basis of newspaper articles. These newspaper articles were the vehicle which carried some important information, I believe. For example, referred to investigations which had particular findings which were acknowledged by supply companies. So there's a strong factual basis. It's not simply just, any old newspaper article.
But it remains newspaper articles.
There were a great number of newspaper reports that I used in my testimony. That's correct.
Well, the fact is, Dr. Woods, is that your submissions and evidence, you will certainly agree with me, will only have value insofar as we accept the correctness and reliability of those facts contained in these newspaper articles and or in the emails. We'll deal with them.
Yes, as suggested yesterday, the statement I made and the case that I attempted to build by way of that statement, I was hopeful that it would be useful to the Commission and that it would give them some perspectives, give them some leads which they, with their powers, would be able to follow through with if they so chose. So I don't think I attempted to do anything more than that.
No, but you haven't answered my question. Please answer the question.
I do apologize. Would you repeat it, please?
Your submissions and evidence in that regard will only have value insofar as we accept the correctness and the reliability of the facts contained in those sources that you relied on, the newspaper articles and the emails.
Yes, but in addition, it'll also hopefully have value because of the analysis I make of those reports that I referred to.
Are you referring now to the inferences that you draw from those sources, and are you referring to that now as an analysis?
Yes, in academic research that is known as analysis.
That's fine. So what you say, in addition to the newspaper articles and the emails, you also presented the Commission with your opinions and inferences which you drew from those sources.
And as far as they suggested probability in some cases, yes.
Well, it's easy, Dr. Woods. If a particular newspaper article misstated the correct and or true facts, that will have a material influence on the reliability of your submissions.
You are correct that it would have an effect, but I I tried to present more than one newspaper article to support critical issues. And if one looks at the totality of my supporting documentation, I think a document here and there that might contain errors, I don't believe would detract from my overall analysis and conclusions.
That's a very interesting approach. Would you say that's a scientific approach to follow that if two newspapers states something, then it must be true? If only one states the fact, there may be a problem to accept it, but if two newspapers state the fact, then we should accept that as true.
Not exactly. As I repeatedly told you yesterday, these newspaper reports were chosen very carefully with regard to who wrote them, what the source of the information was, what they had done to corroborate that information, who they'd spoken to. So if there are two newspaper reports saying more or less the same thing, I would look at to see whether they had exercised independent minds.
That's very interesting. So what you say is, if certain journalists present a newspaper article, you can accept it as true. Others you should doubt.
Yeah, one couldn't go as far as saying you accept it as true, but one does evaluate the article and try to assess the likelihood that it is accurate by the ways in which I've already mentioned.
That's ridiculous, Dr. Woods. Do you say that you already confirmed that you have no personal knowledge whatsoever? You can now evaluate an article making factual allegations as to facts that you have no knowledge of, and then decide without knowledge that it's true or not true.
Could you remind me of factual allegations I've made?
No, Dr. Woods, you must listen to the question. You say, you just testified that you evaluate the article and you carefully selected the articles. Did I understand you correct?
You heard me correctly?
Now, what I'm putting to you, it's ridiculous to suggest that you, without any factual knowledge, you already admitted to that, can now evaluate a press article in which certain facts are stated, and then you evaluate it and decide whether it's true or not true. On what basis can you do that?
Well, perhaps we should have a look at a few examples. I get press reports regarding a serious fraud office investigation in the UK into BAE. They quote the findings, as do a number of other newspapers. BAE accept the findings. I believe that constitutes a good secondary source of information to support the case I'm building. I refuse to allow you to take me beyond that.
Dr. Woods, with the greatest of respect, where did BAE ever accept the allegations of corruption?
You know, I quoted yesterday from the Hansard in the UK Parliament from a minister who accepted. Why don't you get the Hansard and check for yourself?
Dr. Woods, you invited me to look at an example. Please turn to page 86 of your bundle. Now, that is Annexure GGW 12A, on which you relied for the allegation that my client received secret payments of up to 200 million rand in commission relating to the sale of the 26 Grippens. Am I correct?
Could you repeat that, please?
I stated to you that on page 86 of your bundle, we find exhibit or annexure GGW 12A. Am I correct?
You are.
And annexure GGW 12A is one of the two sources that you relied on for the statement that you've made in paragraph 20 of your submissions, where you stated that Shlongwane received secret payments of up to 200 million in commission relating to the sale of 26 Grippens. Am I correct?
Those were two statements that I made reference to, yes.
Is the answer to my question then yes?
Well, when you say rely on, I'm not sure what you mean. And so I'll just say I use them as reference points, as you can see for yourself in my statement, and them amongst many others. Many other reports are referred to, as I say, hopefully allowed me to accumulate secondary source evidence and to build a case.
Dr. Woods, now look at the newspaper article, GGW 12A. Is that a newspaper article that appeared in the Sunday Times, if I have it correct? Or if not, can you tell us where did you find this article?
I recorded it, I think, as a SCOPA produced article. I don't think I have noted the exact newspaper it came into.
It's apparent from this article that the source of the article was a press statement issued by SABC. Am I correct?
My reading of the article doesn't say expressly that SABC issued the statement.
It doesn't say it expressly, Dr. Woods, but it's clear from the content that it relies on the press statement issued by SABC. It's commenced in the first paragraph to say that Swedish defense group SABC yesterday admitted that millions were paid to clinch a South African contract for fighter jets, but said its erstwhile British partner BAE Systems had paid the bribes.
You are reading from the article correctly?
Well, that's indicative of the fact that this article emanates from the press statement issued by SABC.
I would tend to agree with you.
I suppose it becomes more evident even, Dr. Woods, but thank you for agreeing, that the press statement from SABC was issued on the 16th of June 2011, and it appears that this article was dated the 17th of June 2011, according to the note written on it. Am I correct? Just have a look at the handwritten note on page 86 on the article itself. I suppose you made it there.
You're referring to the date?
Yes.
Yeah, what I see there is 17th of the 6 months, and I'm not quite sure what the year is because it appears the article has maybe chopped it. So it's either 11 or 14 or I don't know.
Maybe my copy is better than yours, Dr. Woods. It's absolutely clear. It's 17 June 2011.
Maybe if I can also help. The copy that I have clearly says that 17th June stroke 11. It doesn't say 14.
Absolutely.
It says stroke 11.
Thank you for your assistance. I accept what you're seeing there.
Now, have you ever seen or read the SAB press release?
No, I have not.
You must just put off your microphone. Are you telling the Commission that you've included this article relying on a press statement by SAB making extremely serious allegations without checking what the press release in fact stated?
What I do recall is that on the issue of the SAB investigation, that there were a number of press releases which I had in my possession. As I told you early on, I would select a few which hopefully captured succinctly the point that I wish to make in my statement. I recall...
I'm sorry, Dr. Woods. Can you speak directly into the mic? I'm battling to hear you.
Chair, I'm speaking directly into the mic. I think we need to get some attention to the system. And of those collection of articles I'd have in this instance regarding the SABA investigation, I do recall, I believe I recall parts of the statement, but no, I have never seen or received or possessed a copy of the full statement as was issued by SAB.
Must I take that for a long no?
If your question says, have I seen the original statement or a copy thereof, then yes, you could take it as a no.
So are you telling the Commission that you are including in your submission allegations of the worst kind, where allegedly the partner of BAE stated without any doubt that BAE Systems paid bribes, and you didn't take the time to check on the press release by SAB to make sure that that was indeed what SAB said?
Well, firstly, as I said, I had a number of reports on the SAB investigation, all of which I read, and I felt from those, and from the two I've included in this bundle, in my view, it was sufficient to make the point that there was an investigation and that there were certain findings which had been acknowledged. And I thought that was sufficient for the type of case and the type of method I'm using to build that case. And you can try and take me down all sorts of roads. It's not the type of case I was trying to build, conclusive evidence and getting into the minutiae of these reports.
I would really appreciate you answering the questions straightforward, Dr. Woods. So what you say, and must I infer from this long answer again, that you made these serious defamatory statements and included that in your submission without checking the source of the article to ensure that it has been correctly reported.
I made no serious defamatory allegations. I simply referred to these press articles in my statement as I built my case. You know, you don't want long answers, but you sometimes compel me to repeat myself and repeat myself. I'm not going to change my story.
Dr. Woods, you accuse Mr. Shlongwane in your submission, and you repeated it under oath yesterday, that he received secret payments relating to the sale of 26 grippins. Am I correct? Is that part of your submission, and was that part of your evidence?
Once again, you are not correct. My statement simply refers to some press articles, and in this case, that say certain things. I'm not going to let you bring it into the first person. You must read my statement and see how it's composed.
Dr. Woods, what I found very difficult to understand is that the SARP press release was easily available. Would you agree with that?
I'm sure I could have got hold of it quite easily.
You could have asked the evidence leaders, because it's before the commission already. It was part of Mr. Mainier's submissions.
You're informing me, are you? Yeah.
What I further inform you is that this article is outrageously scandalous, because there's no basis for the very first paragraph suggesting or alleging that SARP, in fact, accused their British partner BAE Systems of receiving or paying bribes.
Yeah, they referred to commissions that were paid, from what I read.
I can read to you what they said in this regard. They said, in this regard, a person employed by BAE Systems has, without SARP's knowledge, signed a for us unknown contract. And from that, the reporter stated that a Swedish defense group, SAB, yesterday admitted that millions were paid to clinch a South African contract for fighter jets, but said its erstwhile British partners, BAE Systems, had paid the bribes. I put it to you that this article is scandalous and outrageous in misstating the facts.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Just hold on, Dr. Toes. Is that proposition correct or not?
Chair, I would need to go into it in a bit more detail before I conceded that I had included a press report which was not altogether accurate. I can't, without engaging the issue in a little more depth.
What I attempt to illustrate, Dr. Woods, is that you relied on sources that is clearly misstating the facts. And that is to illustrate to you, when I dealt with your evidence, to say that it has only got value insofar as there can be a finding that the facts contained in these sources are absolutely and unconditionally correct. Now I've indicated to you that, in fact, your sources are scandalously misstating the facts.
I hear what you're saying.
I would like to hear your comment.
I don't have a comment. You're exercising your opinion with some very strong adjectives, and I'm listening.
Why am I not surprised that you cannot comment on that? Because it goes to the very root of the value of your submissions and your evidence, Dr. Woods.
Well, that's your opinion again.
For the same proposition, you relied on a second source, and you can just turn the page. That is Annexure GGW12B that we find on page 87 of the same bundle. Am I correct?
You're referring to GGW 12B. Yes, I have it in front of me.
What I stated to you was that the second source that you included with reference to paragraph 20 of your submissions was GGW 12B. You'll find that on page 9 of your report, of your submission.
I think you're correct.
Now, let's evaluate Annexure GGW 12B. I want you to go to the 5th paragraph. It starts off with a quote, starting with the consultant who received. Do you have it in front of you?
So you could just point out the paragraph again, please?
The 5th one from the top, the consultant who received the secret payments.
I'm with you now, thank you.
Now, if you keep your finger there and you turn to page 9 of your submission to paragraph 20, you will see that paragraph 20 actually emanates from this paragraph in GGW 12B.
I believe you're correct.
Well, it's almost word for word the same. Paragraph 20 reads, Shlongwane received secret payments of up to 200 million rand in commissions relating to the sale of the 26 Grippens. I refer in this regard to annexes GGW 12A and GGW 12B. The paragraph in GGW 12B reads, the consultant who received the secret payments is reportedly Fana Shlongwane, who was an advisor to the former Minister of Defence, Joe Modise, and who has alleged to have received up to 200 million rand in commission relating to the acquisition of 26 Gripen fighter jets from Saab / British Aerospace. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Now, it appears from what we read, what I've just read to you from GGW 12B, is in fact a quote from something that Mr. Maynier said. Am I correct?
I don't have a clue what Mr. Maynier said.
But what you can do, Dr. Woods, in your scientific approach is to just look at the document. It is clear from the document that what I've read to you now is a quote from something that Mr. Maynier said, not so?
I don't know if he said it. Sorry.
Dr. Woods, don't play games. It's clear that it is a quote. And it's clear, after the quote, it states, Meunier said. Now, what else can you infer from that, Dr. Woods?
I'm sorry, Dr. Woods, this is a document that we got from you. After that quotation, it says, Mr. Meunier said. Now, how can you possibly say that you don't know what Mr. Meunier said?
Well, he's only just pointed out to me that that's at the end of that sentence. But yes, I acknowledge that it's quoting him. I thought he was initially referring to Mr. Meunier's evidence before the commission.
Don't be disingenuous now, Dr. Woods. Please, you're under oath.
Please don't get personal and critical and insulting like you were yesterday.
Dr. Woods, now we know Mr. Meunier testified approximately 2-3 weeks ago in this commission, and he unequivocally stated to this commission that he has no knowledge of these facts, nor can he stand in for the reliability and or the correctness of any of the documents that he referred to. Are you aware of that evidence?
You're referring to Mr. Meunier's evidence before the commission? I'm not aware of that evidence.
Well, I'm putting to you that is what he testified. Do you accept that? Or will do it, must I show you the evidence?
I'll take your word for it.
Now, if we then evaluate your submissions, the basis of the allegations against my client, Mr. Shlongwane, is to be found in paragraph 20 of your submission. And you referred to two sources that will substantiate what is there. The one is GGW 12A, which is a scandalous article misstating the facts in all material respects, and the other emanates from a person who testified under oath in this commission that he has no knowledge of any of these facts, and he does not stand in for the reliability and or the correctness of any of the documentation in this regard.
I take your point. And while one cannot make excuses for the pressure we were placed under to put this together and put the bundle together, I realize I would have served my case better by including a number of the other reports, the reports that refer to this matter, including one which says SABC has admitted that a contract was signed between its subsidiary, SANEP, and Hlongwane to pay Fana Hlongwane 24 million rand, and that the payment was an inducement for Fana Hlongwane to secure the Gripen deal. That, amongst many other statements, I should have included them.
Dr. Woods, I cannot deal with material that you decided not to include. So please let us stick with the facts and or the documentation that you decided and preferred to put before the commission, please.
I agree with you.
You will agree with me that if one has then regard to your submissions and evidence in this regard relating to this serious allegation against my client, it's completely valueless if we base it on your submissions and your evidence of yesterday.
You know, completely valueless is a value judgment. So I don't really know what you mean by that.
Well, let me explain. You don't have any personal knowledge of this allegation or the facts contained in this allegation. Am I right?
You're right.
The sources that you rely on is clearly not worth the paper it has been written on. Do you agree with that?
It's when you use this colorful language that you lose me a bit. You know, if you could just speak straight in a measured tone, I'm sure I'd be able to be more responsive. But the paper it was written on, what do you mean by that?
I mean, Dr. Woods, that the sources that you relied on does not corroborate what you stated in paragraph 20.
I do agree it falls short. The two items are included fall short of the type of secondary source evidence and the value thereof that I wish to include in those relating to paragraphs 20 and 21.
Dr. Woods, I want to put it to you, one can take a couple of days to illustrate to you that what I've illustrated by this example, by this basis allegation against my client, holds actually true for your whole submission.
I think only time will prove you correct or incorrect.
With reference to your allegations and or evidence yesterday stating that BAE acknowledged that they paid money to agents without them having done anything to in fact justify the payments. Have you ever taken the time to read the submissions by BAE to this commission?
No, I haven't. I wasn't aware there were any BAE submissions.
Because what I can put to you, Dr. Woods, is that BAE in great detail explained exactly the reasons for involving agents and for payments to agents. Absolutely the contrary to what you alleged yesterday.
Good. I'm sure the Commission will indulge that information together with my report and will make up its own minds, and together with other submissions on the subject.
The other submissions now, the newspaper articles that you included in your submission.
I suspect that there will be further submissions on this subject, and I will forewarn those people to be more substantive than what I was.
Well, I stand to be corrected, Dr. Woods, but I'm not aware of any person who testified before this commission making the allegation from knowledge that, in fact, bribes had been paid.
Sorry, the statement I just made refers to future people who will testify. I said I suspect there will, amongst their testimony, that there will be more evidence submitted in this regard, and I will certainly forewarn them that they are likely to come under attack from yourself.
I have no objection that you forewarn them, Dr. Woods. Are you agreeing, or haven't you got knowledge of the fact that what I've put to you is that there was not a single, as far as I know, allegation from a person with knowledge, personal knowledge in this regards, that any bribes had been paid relating to the arms procurement transaction?
If you're referring to those witnesses who have testified thus far, I haven't read through their complete submissions, but you know, when I'd switched off this arm deal years ago until I had this surprise subpoena from the chair, the reason for which I've never understood, having not ever claimed to have evidence or made any allegations. So I've had to, in a very short space of time, try and compile something that would be useful to the Commission. I qualified it yesterday and explaining my approach in great detail. So I'm still in a process of catch-up. I probably have at least 2,000 documents I never even had an opportunity to go through. In this particular instance, as I said, I probably have I do have a number of more documents. I probably have, I hate to guess, but scores of reports on Whānau Hlangwana receiving monies. So there's a lot. There's a lot I wish I'd had time to take into account in a more considered way. But I am accepting that the two reference documents I've used here are not sufficiently adequate.
It's not a question of not being sufficiently adequate, Dr. Woods. It's completely unacceptable. Based on objective facts.
That is your opinion.
Dr. Woods, I want to put to you that your submissions and evidence, in fact, provided this commission with not a single fact that is either admissible or reliable or to be believed in any way whatsoever.
You know, that's just simply outrageous, and it just demonstrates very clearly where you're coming from and how desperate you are to serve your client, which is, I suppose, what he pays you for.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Advocate Sele. What was the agreement? Who was supposed to be next? Mr. Choi.
Thanks, Chairperson. I will be next. Dr. Woods, if we turn to page 31 of your statement, especially having regard to paragraph 74 of the statement, you seem to suggest that the DTI has not given any kind of business plan, or maybe suggesting that they didn't consider any business plans for the projects which were approved or which were done for the NIP. There's evidence which is before the Commission is to the effect that before a project could be approved, business plans were supposed to have been given. Do you have any evidence which suggests that that kind of evidence before this Commission is incorrect?
As I explained yesterday, and with respect, I did it in some detail, what they referred to as business plans which they required to be submitted by the seller in order to gain approval by the NIP implementing mechanism of the investment project, required had a few requirements. Four, in fact. What I'm saying is those fall very short of what is accepted in the business world as a business plan. And in no ways do these requirements ensure that the NIPs that are being proposed have been properly researched, that the NIP, which in most cases is a business initiative would be profitable, where market surveys were done, and all the other many projections and demographic studies that are required to constitute a proper business plan. My direct evidence here is that in one of my discussions with Amachi, I asked them to take me through how they had compiled theirs, and it confirmed exactly what I'm saying, that the requirements are very few and far between. And if you look at the DTI report earlier this year, the consequences are quite clear, and the reasons for so many of these having been failed, or having been exchanged, or having been for other ideas, or where they simply have not materialized, would, in my opinion, be because of an inadequate business plan. So that's what I'm trying to capture in this paragraph, and what I did explain yesterday. I hope I've answered your question fully.
Yes, Dr. Woods, what we like to hear from you is whether indeed there were business plans. So is your answer that there were indeed business plans, but according to your own view, they were not adequate?
Yes, that's my view, and I think it's a view I can substantiate without too much trouble, or we could get it independently substantiated. Frustratingly, both the Auditor General, and they makes reference to it in the JIT report, his forensic guys were refused access to the business plans. I requested copies of them in Parliament, and Minister Irwin, under something called commercial confidentiality, consistently refused to give anyone access. I tried to use Section 56 of the Constitution, which gives Parliament's powers to have access to every document, but at that point, the majority in the committee outvoted me in saying the committee does not want to see those documents. So what I'm telling you is I haven't been able to personally see the business plans that were of the winning prime contractors.
So if you have not seen yourself the business plans, is it fair for you to assume that those business plans didn't conform with the requirements?
No, I'm assuming they did conform with the requirement, but that the requirement was grossly inadequate.
Maybe we can move forward to page 32 of your statement. One having regard to paragraph 76. In the statement you make there is that the costing deal of the Hawks and Gripens appear to indicating such a loading of price. This is actually as an example that the NIP performance was loaded in the prices. For instance, I will suggest that the overpricing of certain armaments. Do you have any kind of proof to suggest the actual price of the Hawks and the Gripens?
No, I don't. If I'd had proof, I wouldn't have said it appears to indicate such a loading. I did explain the appears to be part. I explained that the affordability study suggests that this is probably what happened. I think the JIT report suggests it as well. And as I told you, amongst confidential documents which I have, certain of which would constitute direct evidence, but which I erred on the side of caution by not including in my bundle or with reference to. But I did tell you I do have copies of the costings, which I got from Chippy Shake on the Hawks and Griffins, and after many questions, he was unable to explain what certain large add-on amounts were. He tried to deceive me after consultation with the Air Force on the case of the Hawks. We said a certain large amount of development costs constituted a glass cockpit. But I was able to prove that the original price actually included that, and the Hawks of very similar specification that were bought by Australia the year before had a glass cockpit included, and they paid a price, I'm open to correction, but like 40% less than what we paid. So I was not able to get an explanation as to what these huge add-on prices were. So in fairness, I think that to me appears to be what the affordability study was concerned about.
But in your own knowledge, you have no proof of the actual prices of the Hawks or the Gripens. You cannot testify to say these are the actual amounts and these amounts is a difference of the inflated amount which included the NIP.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. So, Chairperson, I have no further questions.
Dr. Wood, will I be correct to say that if you don't know what the actual cost of the Hawk or of a Gripen should have been, you cannot make a statement and say that, the price that we paid, that we paid more than what we should have paid?
I don't believe I made the statement that we paid more than we should have paid.
Just use the word excessive, the one that you used then.
I didn't hear you. I beg your pardon, Chair.
Which word did you use? Excessive? Or that the prices were loaded? The words that you have used in paragraph 26 is that the costs were loaded, which I thought it means one and the same thing. Let's use the word that the prices were loaded.
Chair, are you referring to the discussion I've just had with the previous questioner? Are you? Yes, in that discussion, I referred to my citing of the costings, of which I have copies, and in my attempts to try and substantiate certain amounts which were added on to the price of the aeroplane. And I mentioned that the response I'd got proved not to be correct. I explained why I believed so, and by deduction, and I believe this would be any reasonable person's way of thinking, what I have would appear. It would appear that there was a loading of prices in the absence of any other explanation from the military.
Dr. Woods, do you know, in your view, how much should we have paid for one Hawk? And how much should we have paid for one Gripen?
Chair, I haven't brought that information with me, but yes, there was a shelf price. There were prices of all the other Hawk deals that had taken place within this range of time. One had to be very careful on that. Specifications are often very different, like the Hawks the U.S. Navy bought couldn't really be compared. But through a source, I also received details of the specifications of the Australian Hawk, and I thought it constituted a reasonable comparison, seeing as it had been bought the year before, and because the specifications are that similar. But I just made the point that the prices were that different. But so I have quite a lot of information. But once again, Chair, how much information should I have brought before you?
So it's for you to decide what information you should give us, because you are the one who knows what information you have. I was just asking a simple question. You are talking about loading of prices. I'm just trying to find out a simple question. How much did we pay for the Hawk, and how much should we have paid for the Hawk according to you? And two, of course, this next question will be, you're talking about the specifications. Was our specifications the same as the Australian specifications? If the answer is yes, then you will have to tell us how do you come to that conclusion.
Well, Chair, would you like me to go away and do an exercise for you?
No, talking about what we have said before us now. If you're told you don't have any information to substantiate what is contained in some of your evidence, say so. I don't want you to go and do a research. We'll do the research. I thought what is contained in a statement, this is what you know. I don't want you to go and do a research.
Okay, let me take a shortcut then, Chair. I refer you to the JRT report. There's quite a lot to be said on the price and whether it was excessive or not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, by the way, you had finished your cross-examination.
I did, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you. Apparently, Mrs. Modise.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I have heard for years baseless allegations about Joe Modise. And these allegations have been going on, as I've been saying, even yesterday. And such allegations have cost my family a great deal of suffering. I have heard yesterday that Dr. Woods has said that Mr. Modise has benefited from the arms deal. I just would like to know, what is it that he has benefited according to you? Not only that, what evidence do you have except from the newspapers that we've been reading for years concretely that you can put here that this is what Modise has benefited? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Modise. And first, I do regret the situation and the pain that you've gone through, and I am aware there has been a lot of speculative allegations about the late Minister Modise. Yeah, I was asked a question yesterday about who of the cabinet of that time, I believed had received money, and I did say that, according to the information I had, I only had references to Mr. Modise having received money. I was appalled last night at the very inaccurate and irresponsible report on ETV, which claimed I had said he was the biggest receiver of bribes. And I can only ask you to look at the transcripts that come out here and see for yourself what I actually said. But yes, I did say that, according to my information. Yesterday afternoon, I produced, once again, it was a report, a media report. But what it did include was a copy of a bank statement of a considerable sum of money, and the bank statement going to the account of J. Modise. I offered that. The chairperson also challenged me yesterday on what else I had on Mr. Modise. I have a few other things. There was a prosecutor by the name of Gerda Ferreira who compiled a dossier on the allegations concerning Mr. Modise, which made some fairly strong findings, but I don't have that. I can't present it. But I just want you to know that this has been looked into. There is information on record. One of the areas is Mr. Modise's share acquisition of Conlog, but to the best of our knowledge, it was not a majority shareholding, firstly, and secondly, it was suggested that he paid for those shares through a loan from a friend in Germany. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But part of the as I recall from the prosecutor's investigation, brought into question the connection Mr. Modise had with BAE round about this time, and the fact that, so it was claimed as a fact anyway, that Conlog, after his acquisition of shares, received, I think it was the biggest nip from BAE. I think that was looked into. And there was another issue regarding another BAE NIP which went to the MK War Veterans Association, of which I believe Mr. Modise was patron at the time. That's all I know, but I don't think what I said yesterday went beyond that, and certainly, well, hopefully nothing that I said was irresponsible or inaccurate.
Just hold on, man, before you proceed. Dr. Woods, I heard you talking about banks' statements. Are you saying that there are bank statements that we have included in the bundle that you have given us? If so, on which page will the bank statements be?
Chair, if my evidence leader doesn't mind, I see he has it there. It appears to be GGW 31. It's a copy of the bank statement, which is contained in a report. Page 130, I believe, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I don't know whether my bundle is not correct, but I have no bank statement on page 130.
Dr. Woods, there's no bank statement on page 130.
It appears to be a deposit slip, but definitely not a bank statement.
You're correct. It's a deposit slip of money being allegedly paid into his account. My use of the wrong term there.
This is a newspaper report. This is a newspaper report.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
My second question is about the Conlog shares that you're talking about. Is it also included in this report?
No, I didn't include it in this report. It was not something that I was pursuing. As I said, simply in reply to a question yesterday, I made the remark that I did.
What you've been saying, Dr. Wood, with all due respect, is what you've also gathered from the newspapers and the media. We've all been reading about that. I want a concrete evidence of the benefits that Modise has received. And you mentioned, I think, what I've read many years back from the newspapers. Is there something that you can show to us that here's concrete proof? I can see this is another media press cuttings that you are referring to.
by all means, if you write to me and make that request, and I will see if I can get into Gerda Ferreira's, get information out of Gerda Ferreira's files, and I'll also make further inquiries. I have no obligation to do that, but I would like to try and do that for you.
You know, Dr. Wood, this is a matter of public record. I've got it yesterday from the media that Joe Modise is the only one that has benefited, according to you. And I was saying, can you give me a list? You talk about some things that you didn't even submit here, that I've also read many a years back, and I'm trying to say to you, all what you're talking about, you've got it from, it's just statements from the media, like and unsubstantiated.
One of the points I had to make yesterday on a number of occasions that the media has uncovered many instances of fraud and corruption over the years, and in virtually every case has proven to be correct. There are very few instances of where, be it leases on buildings or on Kandla or whatever else, where the investigative journalists have proved to be incorrect. So I would urge you not to just dismiss it as a media report. But secondly, again, I feel terrible that the media have reported it in the way they have. But I want you to look at the truth that will be in the records of this commission. There are transcripts, and if I understand correctly, they go onto the internet. So I would feel you first need to know what I did say and what I didn't say. And then if you have an issue, a problem, I'll go out of my way to resolve that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, my name is Bipuso Modise. I am the daughter of the late Minister Joe Modise. I would request permission to ask Dr. Woods a question.
You can go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Woods, my question to you is a simple one. You have, over the course of this morning, rehashed media reports, told us your opinion of those media reports, but we have asked you a simple and clear question. What concrete evidence do you have of Joe Modise's involvement in corrupt activities or benefits from the arms deal that were undue to the process? If you cannot provide concrete evidence to that end, please withdraw that statement because it's defamatory and it's unsubstantiated.
You're not listening to me, are you? Withdraw what statement? You don't even know what the statement was that I made.
This oral evidence that you submitted, you suggested or said that Joe Modise received benefits from the arms deal. The first question that my mother posed to you today was, what benefits are you referring to? And the second question was, what concrete evidence do you have of those benefits? If you cannot answer those two questions relating to the oral evidence that you submitted yesterday to this commission, please withdraw those statements. They are untrue.
Young lady, I don't take instructions from you.
Sir, you are speaking to this commission.
Just hold on. Doctor, just listen very carefully. She has made a certain proposition. If she's correct in that proposition, then of course you'll have to withdraw the statement. If it turns she's not correct in the proposition that she has made, you don't have to withdraw the statement. It's not a question of her giving you instructions. She's making a proposition. If you don't agree with the proposition, please say so.
Chair, if I can repeat for the umpteenth time, what was the statement that you want me to withdraw? What did I say? Verbatim. You know, we have to begin from a premise of fact.
Maybe if you told you didn't understand the proposition, can I ask the young lady to put again their proposition to you?
In Mr. Woods' testimony yesterday, in his oral testimony, he said that Joe Modise benefited from the arms deal. These were his words. We would like to know what benefits he's referring to and what concrete evidence he has of these benefits.
As explained, there was a question, there was a discussion of which you also participated, Chairperson. And as is the nature, as I qualified everything I said before I started, I'm not here with concrete evidence. I make reference to reports that I believe have substance and are well argued and well sourced.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So in sum, Dr. Woods, what you're saying is you have no concrete evidence.
I've never claimed to have concrete evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Advocate Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I am aware of the fact that it's gone way past the normal tea adjournment, but I assume by your invitation that I should continue. And
Advocate Parker, should we take the tea adjournment or should we continue?
Chair, it depends how many questions she has. If she has 3 questions, maybe she may be allowed, but if it's more than that, we may adjourn.
Okay.
Chair, it will certainly be more than 2 or 3 questions. I anticipate taking the balance of the hour up to lunchtime if I proceed at this stage.
Then in that case, maybe let's take an adjournment for about 10 minutes or so.
As you please.
Thank you.